Work, work, and work. I wanna see work. I'm in work. Pick it up, throw it back, drop that shit. Should go back and forth with I'm too pretty, gotta stop that. I'm lit. All Casamigos. My purity white.
In the quiet early morning hours of May 22, 2024, a horrific act of domestic violence shook the Dayton, Ohio community to its core. What began as an argument over a car between former partners escalated into a brutal triple homicide that claimed the lives of 32-year-old Precious Taste, her unborn child, and 16-year-old Deontay Johnson. The perpetrator was Nicole Cunnigan Jr., known as Nico, a man with a violent history who had been released on parole just months earlier after stabbing Precious while she was pregnant. The victims: Precious Taste, a mother's love. Precious Nicole Taste was a devoted mother of 7 children, including 4-year-old twins. Born and raised in Dayton, she had spent the year before her death making significant improvements in her life. Through determination and hard work, she had lost over 200 pounds and focused on building a better future for her children. At the time of her murder, she was 4 months pregnant with her 8th child. Those who knew Precious described her as generous and welcoming. She regularly opened her home to friends and family going through difficult times, hosting gatherings and creating a safe space for her community. Despite her outward strength and the positive changes she was making, Precious was trapped in a cycle of violence with Nico, the father of her youngest children. Deontay Johnson, an innocent life. 16-year-old Deontay Johnson was a bright teenager with a promising future. He loved fashion and music and had a natural gift for making people laugh. His classmates and teammates were drawn to his positive energy and charismatic personality. On the night of May 21, 2024, Deontay was simply staying over at Precious's home as a family friend. An ordinary sleepover that would tragically become his last night alive. A history of violence. The relationship between Precious and Nico had been volatile for years, marked by a disturbing pattern of abuse. In 2022, while Precious was pregnant, Nico attacked her in a vicious assault, stabbing her multiple times in what nearly became a fatal attack. Despite the severity of this crime, he was charged with felonious assault rather than attempted murder and received a relatively light sentence. After serving his time, Nico was released on parole in January 2024. His criminal history included not only the stabbing but also weapons violations and child endangerment charges. Yet just 4 months after his release, he would return to commit an even more heinous crime. The morning of May 22, 2024. The night before the murders, Precious and Nico had argued over her car. She told him she was keeping it and moving on with her life. This assertion of independence, her refusal to be controlled any longer, appeared to be the trigger that set Nico's rage in motion. At approximately 6:20 a.m. on May 22nd, which happened to be Nico's 32nd birthday, he arrived at Precious's home on Shaftesbury Road. Jawan Lauren Washington, a friend sleeping on Precious's couch, was awakened by the sound of the couple arguing loudly about the car. Then Nico left the bedroom. Moments later, the sound of breaking glass shattered the morning quiet. Nico had smashed a window to re-enter the home, and he was now armed with a handgun. Surveillance footage from a neighbor's security camera would later show Nico peering into the bedroom window before he returned with the weapon. Then came the gunfire. Jawan heard multiple shots and Precious's terrified screams. In panic, she ran to the basement as the shooting continued throughout the house. Precious, desperate to escape, came running down the basement stairs with Nico in pursuit. Her final words were pleas for her life. "I'm sorry. Please no."
"I'm sorry."
But Nico showed no mercy. He continued firing, shooting downward. At Precious as she tried to flee. She collapsed at the bottom of the basement stairs, killed by multiple gunshot wounds. The forensic evidence would later confirm that she had been shot from above, consistent with someone pursuing her down the stairs. Upstairs, Deontay had been asleep when the violence erupted. Police would later find his body still under the covers. When officers pulled back the blankets, they discovered he had been shot as well. A gun was found in his hand, which the defense would later attempt to use to claim self-defense, though the prosecution would prove this was premeditated murder. All the bullets recovered from both victims and the scene came from the same weapon, Nico's gun. The coroner confirmed that Precious was 14 weeks pregnant at the time of her death, her unborn child dying with her. Precious's 4-year-old twins were in the home during the attack, witnessing or hearing their mother's murder. After committing these murders, Nico fled the scene in Precious's white Chevy Malibu, the very car they had argued about. The manhunt. Dayton police immediately launched a massive search for Nico. The abandoned Malibu was found in nearby Trotwood, but Nico had vanished. Given his violent history and the brutality of his crimes, police warned the public that he was armed and extremely dangerous. The manhunt involved multiple agencies, including the U.S. Marshal Service and the Southern Ohio Fugitive Apprehension Strike Team. Tips poured in from the public with reported sightings in Richmond, Indiana, and later near Cleveland. Nico's distinctive appearance, red and white dreadlocks, was broadcast widely across news and social media. For 2 months, Nico remained at large, while the community mourned and the families of his victims waited for justice. Then, on July 23, 2024, the breakthrough came. Ohio State Highway Patrol officers spotted a silver Chevrolet Equinox driving recklessly near Cleveland. The vehicle had been linked to an armed robbery, and the driver matched Nico's description. When officers attempted a traffic stop, Nico refused to pull over, sparking a high-speed chase through Cleveland's streets. With patrol cars in pursuit and an aviation unit tracking from above, Nico eventually abandoned the SUV and fled on foot into a wooded area. Officers quickly closed off escape routes, and at approximately 3:20 p.m., they found Nico hiding in an abandoned home. He surrendered without incident. His distinctive dreadlocks were gone. He had cut them off in an attempt to avoid identification. The manhunt was over. The trial and conviction. After his extradition to Montgomery County, Nico faced an extensive list of charges. 4 counts of murder, including the unborn child, 2 counts of felonious assault, involuntary manslaughter, 2 counts of domestic violence, tampering with evidence, weapons charges, and unauthorized use of a vehicle. His bond was set at $1 million. The trial began in August 2024 and lasted 4 days. The prosecution presented a compelling case that demonstrated premeditation and a clear pattern of violence. Text messages between Precious and Nico were read in court, including one where Precious expressed fear after learning Nico had a gun. His chilling response, "I would never kill you," sent just months before he murdered her. Jawan Washington testified about the terrifying morning, describing the arguing, the breaking glass, the gunfire, and Precious's desperate pleas. The forensic evidence was damning. The bullet trajectory showing Precious was shot from above while fleeing, all bullets coming from Nico's weapon, and the confirmation that Precious was 14 weeks pregnant when killed. The defense attempted to argue self-defense, pointing to the gun found in Deontay's hand. However, the prosecution systematically dismantled this claim. The evidence clearly showed premeditated murder, not defensive action. After 5 hours of deliberation, the jury returned with their verdict. Guilty on all 10 counts. Justice and aftermath. On August 29, 2025, Nico was sentenced to 39 years to life in prison. Before sentencing, Precious's brother Thomas addressed the court with raw emotion. "You took a beautiful soul. All the tough talk that you did wasn't tough enough to walk away. After she asked you to leave her alone, you could have just walked away. You didn't care about your kids." When given the chance to speak, Nico maintained his innocence despite overwhelming evidence, showing no remorse for his actions. As he was escorted from the courtroom, there was no acknowledgement of the devastation he had caused. The lasting impact. The consequences of Nico's violence ripple far beyond the courtroom. Precious's 7 children are now without their mother. Her 4-year-old twins will grow up without either parent. Their mother murdered, their father imprisoned for killing her. The unborn child she carried never had a chance at life. Deontay Johnson's mother, Jennifer Lewis, lost her bright, talented son who had his whole future ahead of him. She has worked to ensure that Deontay is remembered not just as a victim of domestic violence, but as a teenager with dreams, talents, and immense potential. The Dayton community rallied around both families, holding vigils and balloon releases in Precious's favorite color, purple. The funerals brought together friends, family, and community members who celebrated the lives of those lost while grappling with the senselessness of their deaths. Systemic failures. This tragedy raises profound questions about how the justice system handles domestic violence. In 2022, Nico nearly killed Precious while she was pregnant by stabbing her multiple times. Yet he received a relatively light sentence for felonious assault and was released on parole just 4 months before committing these murders. How many red flags were ignored? How was someone with such a violent history against the same victim allowed to be released with access to her and their children? The system that should have protected Precious failed catastrophically. The murders of Precious Taste, her unborn child, and Deontay Johnson represent an unspeakable tragedy that never should have occurred. Precious was a devoted mother working to build a better life for her children. Deontay was an innocent teenager with a bright future. Both deserved to live, to grow, to experience all that life had to offer. While Nicole Cunnigan Jr. will spend the rest of his life in prison, that sentence cannot undo the harm caused or heal the wounds left on the families. This case serves as a stark reminder of the deadly reality of domestic violence and the critical importance of protecting victims before it's too late. The memories of Precious and Deontay live on through those who loved them. Their deaths should inspire us all to take domestic violence seriously, to believe victims when they express fear, and to demand better protection from systems meant to keep people safe. May their souls rest in peace, and may their families find strength in the days ahead.